Hello and welcome back to the Football Terrace. Bruno Fernandes in the house. He's going to be a Manchester United player. I am absolutely buzzing. I'm over the moon with the news. I wanted to sit here and talk to you about it though. I was in the car earlier. Couldn't really interact. Couldn't even really see what I was doing, if I'm being honest. Lots of news coming out. We now had an update in relation to the finances and exactly what's happening in relation to the monetary side of things. We will, of course, give you the lowdown on that. But I want to take your reactions. The Skype lines are open. You can come on. You can have your say. You can tell us what you're thinking, what you're feeling, etc. I want to hear from you. I want to know what's going through your mind. I want to know how excited you are about this deal. Come on and have your say right now. We are the only independent, non-specific club channel. It's really a bad description for it. We cover the top six, but we're here for you to come on and have your say. Rivals, feel free to come on and have that chat as well. But remember, Bruno Fernandes will be a Man United player. Personal terms are agreed. Getting towards 2 weeks ago now. £95,000 a week on a 4.5-year contract. And we've got our first caller of the night, Brian. Brian, all the way from the USA. Sir, Bruno Fernandes is almost over that line. Deal's been agreed. Tell me how you feeling, mate.
Oh, my gosh. Imagine trying to get the deal done earlier in the month, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that would have been ideal. No doubt. It would have been ideal. But
at least we're getting the player that we've been crying out for, you know? A flexible midfielder that can, we're getting midfield cover. We're getting quality. We're getting goal production in terms. Goal contributions. He's had an incredible career for Sporting, and can only hope that he can reproduce that for Manchester United in a more difficult league. But yeah, I hope he comes in and hits the ground running and really pushes Manchester United on.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Would I have liked the deal done a few weeks ago? Yes. In terms of the monetary side of things that were holding it up, you have to remember there's been an absolute plethora of stories and speculation. We've covered the vast majority of them. And, Man United did have a bid. There's one report I was reading a few times that the 55 million euros, or I think with exchange rate, it's around 46 to 47 million pounds, had been offered by Manchester United around a week ago. And this is how I feel that I think both teams played a part in creating the sort of stalemate that we saw. I think first and foremost, you had the situation where I think the deal was agreed for around 50 million euros, which is 42 million pounds with add-ons. That was nearly 2 weeks ago on the Friday. And then I think Sporting have tried to increase that price. Man United have then decided for a week to not change their stance, and they've stuck at the 50 million euro mark, the low 40 million pound mark, and they haven't budged from that point until about 5-6 days ago, where they've said, right, okay, we'll meet you halfway. We'll increase the initial bid to 55 million euros, 46.6 million pounds with the same add-ons. And then Sporting Lisbon have then tried to increase it further. They've tried to cut the add-ons out, and they've spoke about, actually, no, we want somewhere in the region of 68 million pounds, but the majority of it up front. And Man United have sat back and held back and sort of stood their ground on that somewhat. And I think that they've ended up compromising. They've ended up paying 46.6 or 46.8. I've read a number of reports. That's probably depending on who those newspapers use to do their exchange in the currency. But it's around 55 million euros has been bid. There is an 8.5 million pound add-on, which is performance related. That will be appearances, goals scored, assists created, etc. And then there's a remaining 12.7 million pounds of add-ons, which are very unlikely to be paid. To pay the remaining 12.7 million pounds, he has to win the Ballon d'Or. And let's be honest, Man United fans, if he wins the Ballon d'Or, it's likely that he, along with the team, you don't win the Ballon d'Or unless your team's winning major honours and you're playing brilliantly, right? So for him to win it, You're going to have to win the Champions League in your National League. So I would be very happy to give him that if he is the Ballon d'Or winner and we win major trophies. In terms of the deal itself, do you think Man United have done well in the negotiations after that breakdown? Or do you wish they just paid up and paid over the odds and got it done sooner? What's your thoughts, Brian?
Yeah, I think that Manchester United have been burned in the past just by, other clubs aren't stupid. They monitor the situations of teams around the world, and when they come in for some of your players, they're gonna kind of play into how well the team is doing. They're gonna feed off of your desperation, because at the end of the day, they're businesses, and businesses want money, And so I think that Manchester United have been burned in the past, but it's nice to see that Manchester United, not just with this deal for Bruno Fernandes, but also in the way that they went about kind of making their signings over the summer as well, not diving in, both feet first, trying to go out and just hand the money to teams, those initial asking prices, but instead being willing to sit back and negotiate a little bit, being confident that they could find compromises with teams. And so I think that shows, while we may not necessarily be happy with the state of the board or the jobs that Woodward and Judge are doing when it comes to transfers and negotiating with other clubs and trying to get deals done, and it feels like it takes ages, I think we have to at least give some credit that we're not overpaying for players that just we're making the movements rather forward to not overpay for players that are going to come in and be subpar anymore.
Yeah, I think, look, if you look at the deal, it's potentially worth £68 million, but you need to be, and this is the thing I would say to Man United fans, and I've asked this question a lot in recent times, and
sorry to cut into it. I think that's good value for money too. I think that's good value for money considering the division that he's coming from, because if it's a player who has that type of production in a bigger, kind of more trafficked division, he probably goes for much more money.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think Manchester United have done well here.
Yeah, if you break it down as well, this season alone, 28 games, 15 goals, 14 assists. Last season, 32 goals, 18 assists in 53 games. So that's 79 goal contributions in 81 games. But I will, of course, concede that he's doing this in a substandard league in comparison to the EPL, the Bundesliga, Serie A, and La Liga. It's still £68 million. And, for instance, last week, Tottenham were praised because they signed this Jedson Fernandes, who's highly rated, and they get him on an 18-month loan deal with a non-compulsory purchase order at the end, meaning if he'd ripped it up and teared it up at Tottenham, yes, it's going to cost them £57 million, but you're basically getting an 18-month... Imagine getting given a brilliant car, and you get 18 months to test drive it, and at the end, you can decide whether you want to keep it or not, right? And you can afford it already. It's not even about the money side of things. It's a brilliant deal. And I think that Man United fans, I'm like you, I want the Glazers to sell. I don't want Woodward and Judges in charge as a general rule. But I say this all the time, I'm not polarized. I will give credit where credit's due. I've seen and this is where Man United fans have to sit back and forget Woodward, forget the owners, forget everything going on at the club for a moment. What about your principles here? Because if you've moaned that we have and I've seen a lot of these fans, we've overpaid for Maguire, we overpaid for Wan-Bissaka, we have overpaid for X, Y, and Z in the past. You then can't moan if the club takes 3 or 4 weeks to get a deal over the line when we've barely moved. You've got to also remember, the player has a buyout clause of 50 million euros. The reason that Sporting Lisbon set the buyout clause of 50 million euros, even after he signed a new deal, is that will give you an indication of how much they value the player. The difference here being, Man United, I think, have been so poor in the negotiating room for 5, 6, 7 years that clubs are trying to take the proverbial. They're really trying to take the biscuit. I'm not sure if you use that expression in the States when it comes to getting deals done. And I asked the question earlier, and I'm asking it now to the viewers, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you want Man United? Some people think that we should keep paying over the odds to build a better squad and then try to reassert our power. But I don't think we can sign all the players we need unless we assert our power. So that's why I'm really happy with this deal. I've wanted Bruno Fernandes for a long time. One, top player. Two, it completely ends. If any Man United fan now refers to us as Brexit FC, they look stupid because the man's definitely not British, which is amazing.
Not British at all.
So it ends that stupid xenophobic narrative that was being spouted by idiots, fake Man United fans, people that are just trying to stir. There's already enough drama at the club. We don't need added drama to be there. And thirdly, I'm really proud of how we've negotiated this. And, we may just have saved... People say, what's the point of scribbling over 5, 10, 15 million pounds? Like I've said, if you do that on every signing over the space of 2 or 3 years, you're then going to miss out on someone. Because if you keep overspending, you go bankrupt. Keep overspending, you run out of money. It's very, very important.
And the club may have just saved the window as well. I mean, could you imagine if Manchester United would have ended this month, Rashford injured probably until April, Pogba, who knows when he's going to be getting back, and a lot of other players are just blowing hot and cold. It would have been a disaster.
I agree. I agree with you completely, mate. And I think as well, on top of that, it's the boost it will give the players. Now, let us not get it twisted. They will all know, Rashford and Pogba and Martial, they will all know that Pereira isn't of the standard. They will know that Lingard isn't. They'll be nice guys and they'll be friends, of course, but they'll know these players are not. Like, you look at Paul Pogba, look who he plays with in the French team, right? Even Rashford with England, he'll know that we've got lots of substandard players in the Bruno Fernandes position. We don't have other players like him, barring Pogba. It boosts the whole squad. I think you'll get this element of Rashford in his recuperation, McTominay thinking, right, I can't wait to get back now because I'm going to be next to Bruno Fernandes. 79 goals and assists in 81 games over the past 2 seasons. Astronomical figures. And I think you're right. Save the window. It's a boost for the squad. And even under Ollie, and we rely on individual moments of brilliance. I think we've said that a number of times in the last few weeks on this show. So by that definition, if you've got more players of high quality, you're going to get more moments of individual brilliance. And, if he does go at the end of the season and Poch comes in, well, it's one better quality player to have in the squad. It's brilliant. Yeah. But Brian, listen, mate, I really do appreciate you coming on, having your say, mate. Enjoy the rest of your day, my friend.
You as well. Take care.
Top man. Thank you. I like getting Bryant on. Bryant was one of the first people that ever came on this channel those years back when we first started. What was also interesting today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get this up today. What part do you think this news story played? I genuinely want to ask you this question. Hopefully here it is on the screen now. What story do you think this played? Bruno Fernandes, when Barcelona make bid for United target. I mean, this came out only an hour or so before Manchester United got the agreement with Sporting Lisbon. It says here that Barcelona have opened talks with Sporting Lisbon over a deal to sign Manchester United target Bruno Fernandes. Sky News can confirm reports in Spain that they've progressed with it. They were looking to loan him back out. So look, has he rejected Man United for Barcelona? No, it's more he's rejected Valencia for Manchester United. But they have come in for him at the 11th hour, and I did get a bit worried. Always in the back of your mind, you've got this fear that, what if it's true? Maybe he thinks, do 6 months at Valencia, then I go to Barcelona. Who knows what was being promised to him? By the way, that could be the other side of it as well. They could have said, look, we're going to send you on loan to Valencia for 6 months, but you will be a Barcelona player next year. That got me a little bit worried. However, I did kind of feel all along that he would end up being a Manchester United player. A bit of cannon fodder for you all. We've got a little treat for you now, ladies and gentlemen. Man like Mohammed, man like Mo is on the air. Bruno Fernandes is going to be a Man United player. Mo, tell me what you're thinking.
Terry, can you hear me? Because my phone is fucked. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I can hear you. Go for it.
No, it's a bit messed up, innit? So yeah, I smashed it to the ground the other day and it just fell off me. So
we can hear you perfectly. Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah. Is he on his way? Yeah.
He's 100% on his way. He flies to Manchester tomorrow. Personal terms have already been agreed. He has to undergo a medical. It's highly likely as well that he'll be announced in the next 24 to 48 hours. The only thing that will slow it down now will be some of the legalities, image rights, sponsorship. What you'll find is there'll be lots of different parties involved now, his own personal spot. Like, you got this will cause a problem. He's a Nike athlete, and United, one of our sponsors are Adidas. There'll be lots of legal ramifications for that. What he can and can't do for his current sponsors, what Man United can't get him doing, things like that. So that is what now will slow things down in terms of getting that over the line. And it's harder for the big clubs. The big clubs have a lot more of this to do. But on him as a player, what's your thoughts and feelings of him coming to Man United?
Yeah, I love it, man. When I was watching, because I'm a fan, it might seem a bit funny, but I'm a Netherlands supporter. Yeah, I watched when we lost to Portugal 1-0 in that cup final, bro. He bossed that midfield, man. I think, if you like, he's a very good player. It's something what we need right now because Pogba's out, Scott McTominay is out. It's a lot of creativity. So it's good that we went for it. It's good that we're gonna get him, bro. So he's something that we need. Do you understand?
Yeah, no, of course, mate. I think it is, and he's a quality player, and I think that what I like about him, when you look at him as an individual, I think a lot of people have thought, oh yeah, number 10, number 10, number 10. He plays as a support striker sometimes, but he is a central midfielder. He plays that number 8 role brilliantly. If you listen to what read scouting reports on him, listen to what his previous and current managers say. Yes, he scores and he creates in that attacking midfield role. But equally, he wins the ball back. He's good defensively. He can play on that pivot if he's needed. He can pass from deep. He can pass intricately.
It's funny, interesting. Terry. Someone said to me this, I'll have to ask you this question, Do you think because of the Premier League is going to take some time to adjust, do you think?
Maybe. And I think that's one thing I would say from the outset. I'm excited. I'm happy. But you have to give him, like you would give any single player, time. Because, I really rate Minamino, who's signed for Liverpool. I've watched his first 2 or 3 games. He doesn't look the same player that he did at Red Bull. And, excuse me, that's mainly because it's a new system, a new coach, a new manager, and maybe a tougher league to play in. And he also isn't a first teamer anymore. So he's sitting on the bench a lot. He might slightly train in different... He ain't training with the first team when he's on the train. Well, he is training with the first team, but he may be like in the reserve side of it, if that makes sense, when they play 11v11. So it's going to take him a little bit of time here. I'm just watching Maddison hit a free kick. He scuffed it. It's going to be game over.
What's the score?
It's 2-1 Villa. Villa at this end of the game now. Villa have just gone through to the final. Fair play to Dean Smith. So from my point of view, it might take him a bit of time. But I'm really excited about what he offers and what he can do. We've got another caller that's joined us. Stand the line, man like Mo. What's your name, mate? Yeah. And who do you support? Hello, mate. We've just added you to the call. You can
hello?
Speak? Yeah, hello, mate. What's your name?
Adam,
who do you support?
United.
You're a United fan. Bruno Fernandes is on his way. He's having a medical tomorrow. What's your thoughts and feelings?
As a fan, disappointed, embarrassed. Because the club's embarrassing to make a signing this late when you've been communicating with him for the past month. But then again, if he's signing, that's great. And at least hopefully we can it can impact this season. But generally, I just wanted to call because last time you were asking about, I tried to call about when you're talking about if Solskjaer's the man or is he to blame or not. I think generally everyone is responsible for their departments and everyone has failed. There's no one to really because we don't have a footballing director, right?
Right. Go on, keep speaking. Don't get nervous. Don't get worried. Don't panic.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So my theory is now is that the reason why they're not backing Oli because I think they're going to sell the club. I think they're going to sell the club.
I disagree with that. Definitely disagree with that. I don't. Terry, can I come in?
Yeah, mate. You guys jump in. It's your show.
Terry, we've heard this numerous times. This has been going on practically since September 2018. Yeah, prior to when we had Jose. Yeah, this club is not going to be sold. The reason why I'm saying that playing games. But look, if it was going to be sold, it wouldn't be sold a long time ago. It wouldn't be this long. I mean, I've watched your live show when you said, according to that Duncan Castle, the club are selling it. I don't believe it because I've heard it for 2 years. Nearly 18 months I've heard this, nearly 2 years. So it's just all lies just to get us a bit emotional and gassed. Nothing's going to happen. Glazers are here for the long term.
No, I don't think so. I tell you why. Right? I tell you why. Because generally in business practices, probably Terry would agree with me. I'm not sure what kind of environment you work in. With these type of circumstances, what happens is when every department goes down, it's time to sell up because you've pissed off the customers, which is your consumers that come back on a daily basis, right? If United fans are going to regularly walk out, then they will definitely sell because then they realize this is the end of the road. Yeah. And now what they've done was they got the club up to a valuation, yeah, where also due to inflation and because of generally football economics, right? I don't think they can milk United as how they used to milk. Because even if you look at the financial numbers, because it's all about finances, Mo, right? It's all about finances, right? And because of the pathetic state that the club is in on the pitch, it has now affected the boardroom. Yeah. Right.
Do you know what you make some really good points there, and I think that I would love them to sell. But by the way, I'd love them to sell to the right person. I don't want us to go. We have to be very, very careful.
There is no right or wrong person, with all due respects, right?
There is a right and wrong person. Of course, there is.
No, Terry.
How is there not a right and wrong? Hang on, let me just make my point. Of course, there's a right and wrong person. Just because an owner is rich doesn't mean they're going to run the club well. Just go and ask Leyton Orient fans as an example.
Absolutely.
You have to do that. We've got Azim on the line as well, guys. What's your thoughts? I know we're talking about the Bruno Fernandes deal, so you can talk about that. Are you embarrassed by this, as a couple of the callers are saying, or from your point of view, are you just happy with the deal? Do you think the Glazers are going to sell? That's kind of the discussion points. What's on your mind, mate?
Bruno Fernandes obviously is going to happen, hopefully. Don't want to jinx anything. I am embarrassed, absolutely, because had we signed him a couple of weeks ago, we may have beat City, we may have got a result out of Liverpool, and we certainly would have took 3 points against Burnley. So that puts us in a worse position. So just imagine if we had Bruno Fernandes for Burnley game, and we beat Burnley, and we actually, I don't know, we got into the top four by a little margin, and Chelsea missed out, we would get the Champions League money and Champions League football, and Chelsea won't. But they're haggling over 10 million pounds, is it, for a statue of Manchester United? Is unbelievable. Sticking to the Glazers point, I absolutely agree with you, Terry. There is a right and wrong person for me. There is, absolutely. You look at Manchester City, you look at Chelsea, their owners have changed their clubs absolutely inside out. But then you look at Newcastle, for example. Newcastle are potentially a big club. You know, they've got a big fan base. They used to have a big manager in Rafa Benitez. They've obviously had world-class talent, Alan Shearer, and all that jazz. So Newcastle are a big club, and their ownership is, Mike Ashley. What can we say? And another big club, for an example, is Arsenal. Look, Cronkies are rich, but look what they're doing.
Yeah, I on that.
They're the same as the Glazers.
Yeah, I think, look, put aside a minute the political aspects of it, and I'll tell you why I say put that aside, because depending on what side of the political spectrum you sit on, or platform you're on, you're going to have a different view about different people. From the way some people think about Jeff Bezos, the way some people think about the Glazers, and the way that some people think about the Saudis in terms of their political affiliation, what their countries do and don't do. For me, it's a political minefield, and that's not what I'm talking about. That's a different discussion. I'm speaking about making sure we get owners who do want to take us forward for the right reasons. What would be embarrassing and heartbreaking is for the Glazers to go and then to get new owners who absolutely destroy the club. And some teams, if you speak to, Crystal Palace got taken over by a billionaire. Leyton Orient got taken over by a billionaire. I read somewhere that some of Arsenal's owners are as rich as Abramovich, as an example. But they haven't run the club in the same way, and it would still frustrate people. So I think that's part of it. Will the Glazers sell? I always feel that if someone made
the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, it might be. I think if someone made the Glazers the right offer, I think they would look to do it. Remember, they haven't put a penny of their own money into Manchester United. Whatever they walk away with is profit. The whole thing is profit. They could walk away in their back pocket with a few £1 billion, and all they've done is borrow money from banks. I mean, it's absolute madness what they've done, but they've managed to do it. In terms of the Bruno Fernandes thing, I get your thought that you're feeling that you're embarrassed because we haggled over £5 to £10 million. But I've also seen, and maybe you guys are Man United fans that haven't cared about this, but what's your response to all the Man United fans who have moaned for 7 years that we undersell? We didn't get enough money for Hernandez. We didn't get enough money for Welbeck. We didn't get enough money for anyone who leaves. And equally, we've overpaid for Maguire, for Wan-Bissaka. We've overpaid for player after player after player after player. Now, when we are haggling, when we are hanging on and saying, actually, we value the player at X, that's what we think he is, we are going to stand by that. We're willing to, people are always willing in business, as some of you gentlemen obviously know, people are willing to negotiate and compromise, but just to bend over backwards and yield and say, oh, okay, we're so desperate, we're going to, I think it sends the wrong message out. And I suppose it's where you sit on that argument, whether you think we need to rebuild first and then try and gain strength, or you gain the strength by behaving in the right way. If the behaviors of the club are right, if we act professionally, if we give it, if we put ourselves out there with the mentality that we should have, we are Man United. Would that not set the right precedent, not just for the clubs we're talking to, but for the players internally as well, that we don't mess about anymore? I mean, that's a question. I mean, any of you could...
Not really, Terry. Terry, if I can just jump in.
Yeah, of course you can, mate.
I look at it from this perspective, right? In terms of as a club and a business, United is a gold mine. You all know that, right? Mm. So let me go back to your first answer. The fans that are talking about how we've been treated in the market, how we negotiate, so on and so on. I think they're just trying to pinpoint because there's nothing else to talk about other than the Glazers and Ed Woodward. So it's become a talking point. Generally, I think the only way that United can have a clean slate, especially as a club rather than a company, right, is by getting rid of the chief negotiators at the club, because they've already damaged and they've done the damage. So there's no more damage limitation. What can you save? Can you save a Titanic? You can't, because you already tried.
That's great, and that's a really good point.
And only Leonardo is the one who survived.
Do you know what? I agree with the point. For me, what I think football fans have to do more of is be more principled in their approach. So from my point of view, I've been demanding that we behave better in one aspect, we behave better in negotiations. We yield our power more. We don't just bend over and take whatever they give us as an example. Because I've moaned about us not doing that, I can't then complain when we start doing it. That makes me a hypocrite. The same as I spoke, we've done recorded videos. They're going to come out tomorrow. People getting really angry today with what Ollie said about Alexis Sanchez as an example. And I'm sitting there and I watched it and I'm thinking to myself, maybe it was the wrong time to do it because everybody's a bit emotional at the moment. But it was clearly a joke. What he realised he'd done, he basically said barring these three players, Henrik, Vidic, Evra, every single January signing hasn't worked out for us. And then I think he had a moment where he thought, oh, God, we've still got a player officially on our books who is going to come back, by the way, because Sanchez will be a Man United player again in the summer because I don't think Inter are going to sign him.
Really?
But that's not about Ollie wanting him back. If he doesn't play any games for Inter, and Inter don't want him, he's still got a year left on his contract. So
but why did you bought him in the first place?
Yeah, but he's here.
Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, Jose did. The point I'm making is this. Ollie isn't accountable for selling and getting rid of Alexis. That's somebody else's job. My point is, with his comment today, he realised he fucked up and thought, I've just slagged off a player who's still here. So he just threw out a very cheeky... He had a smile on his face. He went, he'll come back and prove us all wrong next year.
Because he thought he was talking to one of his boys. He didn't realise he just got caught out.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, he's not serious. People's anger is, I can't believe he's going to bring Alexis Sanchez back. It's like, slow down. You kind of know... my point is this. If we were doing really well at the moment, we were third in the league, we were playing brilliantly, everyone would have gone, what a joke, he just killed it. It's only because of the way you feel about Ollie that you're bothered by all the little intricate things you do. My point is this. Let's just say we're all over the moon because Poch becomes the new manager in the summer. Let's just paint that hypothetical. If in summer he does press conferences and he says, I think we might take Alexis Sanchez back. if he was to turn around and say the Glazers are great owners, they're giving me lots of money, they really have invested in this football club. Because everyone's over the moon with Poch, nobody's going to start calling him a yes man. Nobody's going to start calling him clueless. The only reason that Ollie is being overtly dragged over the coals is because people don't like him. So back to my original point, to bring this right the way back round, for me, it's about fans acting with principle. If you don't like a Man United manager praising the Glazers, it shouldn't matter who the Man United manager is or how we're playing. You should condemn that and you should condone it and you should denounce that kind of statement. However, I know that the same people on socials crying about everything Ollie does wouldn't do it if their favourite manager or a manager was in charge that they liked. And that's my issue. So for me, I do care what the club does, but the only thing I can control is my principles, my attitude, my behaviour. I've demanded that we behave better in transfer negotiations for 2-3 years now. So when we do that,
because you're a man of principles. Not all fans are like that.
I get that, but that's the thing for me. And my principles
go out the window, Terry. Sorry to interrupt.
You go, mate.
Goes out the windows when you go to work and the rival fans start.
See, not for me, mate. And do you know what it comes down to? And I know I coined the phrase a lot. It's alpha still for me, mate. Like
between you and
you hit a nail on the head there, bruv. This is the biggest issue football fans have. And I think it's schooling. I honestly think it's schooling now because everything's so watered down and soft. You can't have banter. You can't take the mick out of people. Oh, you can't say nothing about him. I grew up in an era where you got ripped, bruv. Like, the amount of things that are said about my mum and my dad at school and my brothers, like, and you just had to laugh at it because otherwise you get kicked out of school if you kicked off every day, right? We just grew up like that. So for me, when I get slagged off about Man United being bad, what I don't do is I don't side with them. I take it on the chin. I absorb it. There's going to come a day where I get to have a go back at you. What I see now is people like, like people have that, people do two things now in society. They do that secondary embarrassment. I'm like, if you do something stupid, I don't feel embarrassed. That's on you, bro. I feel no emotion. Equally, if someone says something that maybe might offend somebody, I don't do that kind of secondhand guilt. And that's what I see from Man United fans. They're annoyed at how we're playing. They're embarrassed because their rivals are better than us. So they side with their rivals. They side with the press. And I pointed out today to a lot of people, whenever the story's negative about Man United, I see Man United fans siding with the same gutter press who racially profile Paul Pogba, who have racially profiled Raheem Sterling. But when it suits Man United fans' agenda to side with the Sun, to side with the Daily Mail, they do it every single day of the week. And this is my message, essentially, is I let you guys can come on here whenever you want and express your opinions. I might challenge your opinion to understand it deeper, but I respect the fact you've got it. My only ask, and the only time I would stop people coming on this platform, is if their opinion changes and their principles change based on who the person is conducting the action. What we don't want, you guys must have seen these videos online. They did it during the general election where they went and interviewed Jeremy Corbyn supporters and they read all these quotes and they were like anti-Semitic quotes that they said Boris Johnson had said. They condemned Boris Johnson, said he shouldn't be running for office. He's a bad, bad man. Then they said to him, actually, they were Jeremy Corbyn's comments. And then they started to defend Jeremy Corbyn. That's people with bad principles, bad morals. And by the way, that works on both sides. I'm not just saying it's them that do it. And for me, that's my one ask to you boys. If you've got your views now, if you think it's embarrassing that we did this, keep that energy for the next time round, because that's the only way I think you gain respect on this platform and you gain respect from the fans.
It's ethics, Terry.
Of course.
It's ethics.
Of course, absolutely.
But
listen, gents.
Before I go, I wanted to ask you,
do
you think Bruno Fernandes is going to make any difference when Paul Pogba could make any difference with that type of tweet?
Do you know what? I would say this. We can all answer that. I'll go first. You boys go after.
Out there now.
Yeah, my view would be this.
He is not with Ollie.
I think the team isn't going to improve drastically under Ollie because he's not a good enough coach, in my opinion. However, this is about people keeping the same energy. So I've still seen a lot of United fans be negative. These negative Man United fans say, and I agree with them on this point, that we're a team that's about individual moments of brilliance. So by that definition, if you have better players, you will get more individual moments of brilliance. So there should be, and I think there will be, a slight improvement. On the Pogba point, I'm very excited and hopeful that we can see these two in a midfield together.
I think he'll stay. I know that's an unpopular opinion.
Okay.
I think that as well, to be honest with you.
I think he'll stay. I think they're gonna get rid of Alexis Sanchez, I think, or someone like that, and they're gonna give Pogba about 500,000 a week, and just try to make him the vocal point, because I don't think Real Madrid can afford him. Juventus cannot afford Pogba. Mino Raiola, he's he's a man with many dreams, but selling Pogba away from United, I don't think that's gonna work out.
Yeah, but also
Financial-
get Pochettino.
financial-
Ollie's not the man. Also get Pochettino. My opinion, personally, my opinion.
I mean, that could be a thing as well. I mean, this is the thing. I would love for Paul Pogba to stay. I defend him massively. I think that he's vilified, he gets abused by Man United fans and whatnot. And by the way, this is why I want us to try and get the price down when we buy players, because the more expensive a player is, the more pressure that's thrown upon them. Having said that, Dan James is the latest one on the chopping block, and he only cost us 15 million quid, and everybody's going mental. But I think that's where Bruno Fernandes will come in and help, because even though Dan James has had good moments this year and Greenwood's been brilliant at times, so Man United isn't a club that should be carried and supported by its youngsters. It's 24-year-old plus players we need. And for me, I think we have enough youngsters at the club now, barring Sancho or like an absolute wonder kid that the world is after. It should now be players 25, 26, 27 that we buy, because we need to build that established core. And even if Potts comes in, he's great with kids, but he'll want that core. And I think that's going to be the important bit. But I'm really excited about seeing a midfield. I mean, I'm just thinking now, like Fred, Pogba, and Bruno. If you can make that work in a system, that's dangerous. Like, genuinely, that's a very good on paper. It's a very good midfield. Or McTominay. Like, I rate McTominay. I think that, it creates competition, doesn't it? Suddenly there's, who's going to play in those positions? And the one issue with Pogba being out is we have no creativity in midfield. Suddenly with Bruno Fernandes in a Man United shirt, I'm less fearful about Pogba missing games. The same as if we were to sign Jadon Sancho. I'm like, well, I don't want Martial or Rashford injured. But suddenly it's like, it's not as bad if they're out, because there's that backup and that quality, which we don't have elsewhere. Gents, listen, I really appreciate you all coming on and having your say as always. We'll speak to you again soon, all right?
All right. Nice.
Take care, boys. Thank you. Bye. We've got another caller on the line now. We have Franklin. Franklin's on the line. What do you want to say, my friend?
Yeah, hello?
Hello, mate. Do me a favor. Can you turn your device down in the background, please?
Yes, it's done.
By the way, let me just say one thing to the viewers. If you guys could do us a big favor, hit the like button. Please hit the share button as well. They're two of the best ways you can support us. And please get downloaded from the information inside the description below, Hot Mic. Man United versus Manchester City, live on that app tomorrow. Use promo code TFT to download it and come follow me at the Football Terrace. That's Hot Mic. All the information is inside the description below. Thank you. And Franklin, over to you. Who do you support and what do you want to say?
Yeah, Man United.
Like, you're a Man United fan. Are you happy with the Bruno Fernandes signing being almost completed?
It's not completed yet.
Almost complete. Almost completed.
When it's completed, then we can be happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty much done. He's flying to Manchester tomorrow. It will happen. If it happens, though, let's live in the hypothetical. If it happens, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I feel good about it. If it happens, then I'll feel happy.
Come on, Franklin, don't ruin the party. Don't ruin the party.
No, it's definitely going to make our team better, because I watched Bruno Fernandes play yesterday. I watched his game live yesterday, and he's really a top player.
Yes.
If it happened, then he's going to be a big plus. But apart from that, I just want to say something, Terry. I don't want to be negative. Sometimes you just look at people, the way people behave become their track record. Don't forget the first ever transfer that Ed Woodward ever did for Man United was Fellaini.
Yes.
It happened on the last day of the season, and we paid 4 million extra.
Yes.
We overpaid for him.
Yes.
And after Man City, the Monday after Man City, that was when Bruno Fernandes started trending that Man United have interest in Bruno Fernandes. And we've been on this for the past 2 to 3 weeks. The time I called you, you said I was sitting on the fence. I said, no. I said, not until this guy hold his shirt, I will never believe this guy. Just today, it was trending that Barcelona has put in a bid for Bruno Fernandes. And after some few hours, started saying that Man United has agreed agreed with Barcelona, with
Yes.
Sporting Lisbon. But the question is that why does it have to be like this over and over? We say we don't want to pay over the odd, but we do things that make us to pay over the odd. Everything that they've been talking about ever since is the same thing according to the mainstream media.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit then. What is it they're doing that's making us pay over the odds, in your opinion? What is it that we haven't paid over the odds? What do you think's made this drag on for 2 or 3 weeks, in your opinion?
I just feel they're not serious.
Who are not serious? Who? Be specific. Who are not serious?
I just feel, what's it called? Is it Matt George or whatever they called him?
Yep.
Is it Matt George? Matt George
Yes.
and Ed Woodward. These are incompetent people.
I agree with that. See, I agree with you on that. I don't think we're gonna find any disagreement there at all. I don't think they're good enough for their job. I really, really don't. However, we can't ask them to be better at their jobs, and then with this deal, they have been better. Because
why should Pogba stay?
Well, that's another. Listen, I don't disagree. Listen, that's fine. That's fine. And listen, there's no point us debating that because I agree with you. My point to you is this, though: we have to be principled. If we get frustrated with the club getting screwed over in transfer deals and behaving unprofessionally and poorly, when they do a good job on a transfer, and by the way, they have done a good job on this because the base price of the player has barely increased. Yes, they compromised and added an additional add-on based on goals, assists, and games being won by the club. And then, of course, the remaining £12.7 million is if he wins the Ballon d'Or, which for him, you know what it's like to win a Ballon d'Or. You've got to win the Champions League.
He ain't going to win that. He's not going to win that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a clause that, yes, it might raise the transfer fee to like 68 million, but even if we win the Champions League and the Premier League in the next 4.5 years, if the likelihood of him also being the Ballon d'Or winner is 1,000,000 to 1. So for me, it's a case of I wouldn't even worry about that one. United have got the deal for only £4 or £5 million over their initial bid. What we can't do is, like with the Fellaini deal, bemoan that we went about it the wrong way and we paid too much. Oh, we've paid 20-30 million pounds too much for Maguire.
Harry Maguire.
Yes, and that's the thing. If you believe we overpaid if you believe that we overpaid for Harry Maguire, what you can't do is be annoyed when we stand our ground and don't overpay for another player. By the way, the first time we try and stand our ground, it's going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to get a deal through because the marketplace sees us as weak. So it's going to take time. If we keep behaving this way, there'll come a point where selling teams will be like, there's no point us trying to long this out and keep, moving the goalposts and selling stories to the press that Barcelona have got involved. Because Man United, we know they're not going to yield. They're too strong for that. Let's just accept their bid and move on. Liverpool have become an absolute powerhouse at it. Liverpool have even gone to a point where, Jesus, Liverpool don't even change their transfer targets if we don't let it happen in one window. They come back like precision, but they still say, no, this is how much we're paying. We're not going above it. Look at what happened with the situation with Nabil Fekir. Because Leon messed around and the agent messed around, they just went, that's it, you're done then. We'll move on to somebody else. The message that then sends to other players that are thinking of coming to Liverpool. The player turns around to the agent, don't you dare mess this up for me by trying to get greedy. And it's because Liverpool set the precedent. You can't ask for things to get better and then complain when we try to make things better. For me, that's an issue there, frankly. But I do appreciate your points and the views that you made, mate. Thank you for coming on and having your say this evening, my man. It takes a brave person to come and do it because most people just like to leave comments, but they don't actually come on and say very much at all. We've got another call here. This is Arpan. Arpan's going to be coming on the air. Hello, welcome to the Football Terrace. What do you want to say, mate?
I was just listening to the previous caller and your conversation about overpaying for players.
Yes.
Terry, tell me one thing. If United right now as a club, the state that we are in, the manager at the helm, how do you attract world-class players if you don't overpay them or if you don't give them a salary which is higher than
I think that's part and parcel. And when I say overpay him, this is where it becomes subjective because what I think Bruno Fernandes is worth in terms of salary and fee is my opinion. we can only base this on. Give you an example. When you play I don't know if it's the same where you grew up. Where I grew up in London, if you went and played five-a-side football, the ball wasn't allowed to go over head height. But the team might have a really short player or a really tall player. So the head height was determined by how tall the referee was. That way it was fair and equal. This is the same here. Whatever Man United think a player is worth is what we have to go by, because we might have 100 Man United fans in a room who all have 100 different opinions. We can't all, you have to go, Man United think he's worth £46 million maximum as a lump sum up front, and then they're going to put some add-on. They think he's worth £95,000 a week. Okay, we'll kind of go with that. You then have to judge the general consensus of whether or not you think we've overpaid or underpaid. The reason we know that we've been overpaying players' salaries, as an example, is because we've become very unsuccessful, but we have the highest wage bill. Man United's wage bill was this high, but we were winning Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. Nobody would focus upon it. So often we know that we've overpaid due to how well the players do, and on top of that, how well we're performing as a team. And what you then also have to couple in is this: how dedicated are the players to Man United? How many have come and done 1 year, 2 years, moved on? Because they've come for that money. So there comes a point where it's like we now need to start finding the right level of player. Now, onto your point, maybe it will detract some of the very best players in the world coming to the club because they think it's not running very well. You know, Jude Bellingham and his dad have said they're not sure if they want to come. They're not sure if it's the right environment for them to play football in. And that's a fair point. But the only way you get past that is by resolving the problems. So whether people want to credit Ollie for this or not, I don't care. But United have been trying to move out players that don't want to be there. They are trying to actively lower the wage bill. They are trying to only sign players who truly want to come to the football club for the right reasons. They're not offering as much in transfer fees. You can argue the Harry Maguire one. But in terms of the salaries, what we're paying, the 4 players we've signed now under Ollie have been paid nothing close to what we were paying people under Jose and LVG. If you keep doing this long enough, I still think you need to employ better people on the board, by the way. So you will set the precedent that United are behaving seriously again. That will attract the right kind of players who want to be in a serious environment and not just think, where can I get a payday? Man United. That's my view on it. And it's a very complex thing because you can't just click your fingers and make it better. We've got Russell on the line with us as well. Russell, I mean, what's your view on all of this? Overpaying for players? Also, I want your view on Bruno Fernandes. Are you excited and happy about the signing? You there, Russell?
Yeah, Terry, just to add on to that, mate, what you said. We as a club, first of all, we don't project ourselves as to have this, secure environment where, talents can come and flourish. First of all, United as a club, I don't think we are that attractive a proposition anymore. We still are a United's knock on the door is still different, but since you said that it depends on how we value players, but the past 4 players that we have signed, if you go by the transfer value, they're not worth it to be on a level apart from Daniel James, who is I think will be in the long term a bargain signing.
Okay.
So for players to come and actually play for United, you actually have to have the lure of a world-class manager, firstly, who will entice or will seduce the players with the philosophy and the kind of football that they were playing, similarly to what happened during the Haaland deal. Haaland clearly told me that, I heard what I wanted to hear in terms of footballing terms. What do you expect when Matt Judge and Ed Woodward, would go to Haaland and sell Manchester United as a fairy tale, as a Disneyland? What all happened? I think you must have heard about the story about Ndombele when he came to United. He really wanted to sign for United, but when he came to United, apparently Matt Judge didn't even knew who Ndombele is.
Mate, listen, all these things you're saying to me, and I mean this with respect, I get and I understand. So back to my point I've made all night. If we start to do things right, and we do start to negotiate properly, we do stand by our principles, we start to behave in the right way, it will take longer at the beginning to get deals done because people are used to us being a joke, and now we're trying to be serious. It's like anything. If you go and work, and it's been 4 or 5 years in a company, and you're seen as a bit of a jester. Nobody really takes you seriously. You're a good guy, but you're not really serious. And then you suddenly, like you say to your boss, right, I want to progress. I want to get promoted. I want to become a team leader. I want to move on to a more senior role. It's going to take you time for people to take you seriously. But you have to start behaving the right way. No one's going to give you the opportunity first to prove yourself. They're going to say, right, show me in your current job you can change and be better. And then maybe we'll look at changing your position, promoting you. It's the same principle here. United have to start behaving in the same way. On the Haaland deal, so this is where I would disagree with a lot of people's take on that. I think United have done the right thing from a commercial standpoint. You said about people taking us seriously. I don't think you can take Man United seriously. I don't think you can take Barca seriously, Liverpool seriously, any of the elite clubs seriously, if they sign one of the hottest young properties in the world, and in 2 years' time, a player that is definitely, barring injury, is going to be worth £150 million plus in this market. If they have a buyout clause of 55 million euros, that for me would be a travesty of a deal to do, because then Mino Raiola hold you over a barrel. They're either going to get a massive new contract that maybe you're not completely deserving of at that time, or they're going to get themselves pulled away from the football club. And it's that being beholden to agents is what got Man United into this mess. Woodward almost acting like he's playing football manager and not actually being the vice chairman of the biggest and one of the most successful football teams on the planet. So all the points you make are absolutely true. I still want Matt Judge's gone. I still want better people on that board. And it looks like we may be employing the gentleman. Maybe that's why he went to Paris. There's the footballing director from Paris Saint-Germain, the old footballing director of Paris Saint-Germain. People like that coming in will help us. And for me, I don't want to overly praise Woodward. I don't want to say positive things about the board because they've upset me and frustrated me for many, many years. But if they start to do things the right way, it is highly hypocritical of Man United fans to not recognise that and say, okay, that's what we've been asking for. What I hate is this. I'll give you my example. Wayne Rooney used to get criticised after every World Cup when he didn't score. He's a bum, he can't score at a World Cup. He then scored at a World Cup, and the criticism changed to, yeah, but why didn't you do it in the other World Cups? So that for me is a hypocrite. That for me is someone that isn't worth talking to. And for any Man United fan that says, I want us to improve our structure, behave better in the market, not sign suicidal deals, you can't then moan when we don't sign suicidal deals. You have to say, well, that's what I asked for. And that for me is about people being principled in their approach.
I totally agree with you, mate. I mean, the example that you gave for Rooney, it's similar to, people slating Rashford for missing a penalty. And when he scores the penalty, they just, discount the fact that it's
exactly. It's that same thing. And that's why for me, that's why I get called out a lot by people on the internet, because too many people are polarized.
But having agreed to all of that, what's the way forward? What we offer? I mean, how do we compete with the other clubs?
How? It's simple in a broad sense. We have to start behaving like a top club again. And what I mean by that, I've not been to Man United in a long while in terms of, I was very fortunate to have a job where I dealt with them behind the scenes for a while. I used to deal with the player liaison officers there. And it was like a circus. Compared to other clubs I went to, it was like a circus. There was no cohesion. It didn't feel like a pro football club. If you listen to things that LVG speaks about, they weren't worried about the football on the pitch. It wasn't their main concern, and it should have been. So what United need to do is truly focus on becoming a great football team again. And that means all decisions that you make and do are for the betterment of the football and the team, as opposed to the commercial side. Now, those two things may work hand in hand, but it's got to be a case of, right, what's best for the pitch? Okay, this player is going to make us less money on marketing, but he's a better football player, so we'll go with him. Equally, how people, the club isn't Disneyland. Don't sell the dream of the club by saying to somebody, your social media following is going to triple, because some football players are absolutely not interested in that as a priority. And the footballers that are interested in that, and the footballers that are interested in that, for me, are not the kind of people that I want coming to Manchester United Football Club. I don't want players whose first thought is, well, how much are you going to pay me to come? For me, it could be the best player in the world. If one of the first few things they talk about is image rights, salaries, will I be the highest paid player, I'm walking away, because for me, that shows me where your head is at. I want people who And the way Bruno Fernandes has behaved is an example here. Didn't get the move in the summer, carried on playing well for his club, knew that his current football team were in financial difficulties, so he refused the 5 million euros that they owed him for rejecting Man United's original bid. Didn't start flirting with other football clubs when Man United couldn't get the deal done over the line because he wanted to play here. This is the club he wanted to come to. For whatever reason, £95,000 a week is a lot of money to me and you, but in the football sense, it's and what Man United have been. When you consider that Lingard's on £120,000 per week, £95,000 a week for a player who has scored and assisted more goals in the last 18 months than Lingard has done his entire career, and the geezer's 2 years younger than him. Like it's a pittance in comparison, right? That's that's United behaving right. Man United turning around to Haaland and to Mino Raiola and saying, the offer is here for you to come, but you're not having that buyout clause. That is acting in the right way. You're sometimes, and I said it the other day, I would rather miss out on a number one target because we've behaved in the right way than land that target, but we've had to sell our soul to the devil to get there, because it's that selling of our soul. It's that, and the Fellaini situation that a previous caller mentioned about, we could have got him for, I think it was more than £4 million, but £4, £5, £6 million plus cheaper if we'd have got the bid in a week earlier. It's that behaviour that makes people think United are a joke club. If they're a joke club, we can take the mick. And anyone who's watching, who's ever worked somewhere, if your bosses, if your company you work for is not serious, if it's a bit of a lads club, if it's a bit of a holiday, if it's everyone's relaxed, no one gets told off, performance dwindles. And it drops. And when you then get suddenly a new boss comes in who's like, right, we're going to shake things up a bit, everybody suddenly, they feel that pinch. And it's going to take time to turn it around. And I also don't think we have the right personnel on that board. But it does look like they're trying to address that. Isn't going to make me fall back in love with the Glazers. Isn't going to make me think that everything is perfect and hunky-dory. And in an ideal world, I want a new board and I want new owners. Am I going to get that? Maybe not. So I then have to be willing to compromise. And if we got in a new technical director and a new football director, and we started to actually behave properly, not overpaying for players, we created a better team, we do move volley on, and then we get a better manager in, then I'll be like, okay, well, I'll start financially supporting the club again, because I haven't got everything I wanted, but I can see the concerted effort to make the football team better. That is what I would suggest. Mate, I really appreciate you coming on and having your say. Just wanted to share with you all on the screen as well. This is a little bit old now, but look at this. This is league games. This is league games this season, which is a madness. You look at the difference here, Bruno Fernandes compared to the Man United midfielders of all types. I'm not sure why they included Paul Pogba on this, because he's barely played at this stage. But look at that, 55 chances created, 7 assists, 8 goals. This is league, by the way, in 1,300 minutes. You look at Dan James there. Dan James has been our most creative midfielder in that respect. And that's the mad thing about the abuse this kid's been getting, Like the mad thing, he's been Man United's best midfielder this year, and he's getting pure abuse from an attacking sense. Pereira there, almost the same amount of minutes as Bruno, just 1 goal, 3 assists. I'll give Fred a pass to an extent, because he isn't playing in that creative role, and that isn't where he's strong. That isn't where he's brilliant. Jesse Lingard, absolutely woeful. McTominay, not a bad return. Again, he's more of a defensive midfield player like Fred, so I'll give him a pass on that. Matic has played more recently, but nothing. Gomez and Chong, they haven't really had the game time. But when you start looking at that, there is absolutely no comparison to me. We're going to take our last call of the night. We've got Russell on the air. Russell, what do you want to say, mate? Russell, you there? You haven't got your microphone on, mate, or something. It's on you, Russell. Something wrong your end, Russ. We can't hear you. All right, mate. Good night. So, yeah, I mean, that's what he's saying. Let's do some of your live comments here. Let's do your... Terry, have you seen the video on Twitter where some United fans allegedly fired flares at Ed Woodward's house? Yeah, things like that are a madness. I've said earlier on today... I did a tweet earlier, which I got, loads of people attacking me, saying, I'm happy for mediocrity, because I said that abusing Ollie was wrong. That just demonstrates the kind of people we're dealing with. Right, we're going to try and get Russell on one last time. Russell, are you there, sir? Russell, are you there? No, whatever's going wrong your end, Russ, it's not working. It ain't working at all, mate, and I'm not sure why. So I'm going to have to say good night to you. Somebody else coming through. Can't get you on, mate. Let's do a few more comments here. Honestly, Terry, Ollie could ruin Bruno. Yeah. I have got that thought in the back of my mind. I'm just rather not put that kind of negativity out there at this moment in time. But there we go. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, you know how much we appreciate it here. We really, really do. But until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.